She's Colorado's first patient to be diagnosed with a rare illness that's linked directly to vaping.
It's a story Piper Johnson is lucky enough to be alive to share. Diagnosed with sudden and severe lung illness due to vaping, a sickness so new it doesn't even have a formal name. Sitting in her hospital bed, it hit her.
In August of this past year, I loaded up our oldest daughter and all of her things to move to Colorado to begin her freshman year of college. And when we got in the car, she was coughing and she said, you know, it kind of hurts when I take a deep breath and I just don't feel very good. As soon as she said those words, she also told me that she'd been vaping. And by the time we got to her college town in Colorado, it was pretty obvious that she was not doing well. When we got to the urgent care and they started taking all her vitals, they realized that she had super low oxygenation. She's running a really high fever, her heart rate's like off the chart, and she's super dehydrated. And you know, they ask her, are you a smoker? And she says no, and she's like, but I've been vaping. And they were like, okay, you know, kind of like not putting a ton of weight on it. And that next day, she had pneumonia, or what they thought was pneumonia, all over her lungs. It just continued to get scarier, and she needed more and more oxygen. That first night that she was in the hospital after she'd been admitted, I'll never forget her just crying to her nurse saying, I can't even take a deep breath. You keep telling me to use this little machine to exercise her lungs, to inflate them like they would do for a patient that had pneumonia. And she's going, I can't do it, I like without excruciating pain. The nurse reached out to the doctor that had ended up admitting us, which was at this point the third doctor we'd seen. He was the first one who paid attention to the fact that she said she'd been vaping, and he felt like what she was experiencing was this, you know, lung illness that was starting to pop up.
So far, 215 people nationwide have been hospitalized with these mysterious illnesses. 2 of them have died.
What was first thought to be pneumonia was actually a really bad case of a rare vaping-related lung illness, one which came within just 36 hours of killing her.
I think to myself, if she'd gone to ISU, it would have been a 2-hour drive. I would have dropped her off and she would have gotten sicker and sicker, and our outcome could have been a lot different. So this being the most horrible experience ever, the way that everything played out, it was clear to us that God's hand was on the whole thing. Vaping kind of, you know, took especially the youth scene by storm. Even the FDA says these things are on the market. Every single one of these products is on the market illegally at this point because none of them have ever been reviewed. We don't know the safety of them, and they're in our kids' hands. You gotta ask the questions, and you know, my kids now, I'll talk to their friends about it, you know, and and sometimes it's as simple as just, you know, bringing it up, and so what are you seeing at school? What are you seeing on social media? You know, what are your friends doing? And also knowing what you're looking for, because for us, I'm sure that there were times that I walked past things and never even knew what they were because they look like a flash drive or a highlighter or something like that. So this here would be like a pod system and little e-cigarette. This would be one of the most popular ones here. This is favored by most teens, the Juul. So you can see it's just got a little pod that goes in here and it charges with a little USB charger. So there's a good chance that you could walk past this. Teachers will say they have walked past them and probably not known what they were, and they just charge up. But any of these pods are only available in menthol or tobacco flavor. They've banned all the other flavors. However, teens are well aware that they can buy flavored e-liquid at a vape shop and just refill pods themselves. They also could use a device like this, which this is called a Sorin. It looks a little bit like a highlighter. And this is what's considered an open tank system. So they would have to, this doesn't take a pod, this would be filled with an e-liquid, and under the current ban, this is still totally available and able to be filled with any flavor because all of the like bottles of e-liquid are still available in all the flavors. Those were not banned. This is called the Sorin Air. You can see this is also gonna be filled with a liquid, and it's just not much wider than, you know, like a stack of business cards. just easy to put in your back pocket. Most of these devices make very little vapor, so the kids can still use them in school. I mean, in class, a lot of times they're gonna vape on them and blow the little bit of vapor into their sleeve, or just hold it in their mouth until it dissipates enough that the teacher at the front of the classroom isn't gonna see what they're using. This one is like what would be considered an open tank system. So this would be filled with the liquid. Still not that big, so easy to, stick in a purse, a pocket, something like that, even in a sleeve. Surprisingly, a lot of things that are out there, like hoodies that you can hook your, there's like a little pocket for your Juul or your vaping device, and then you can just vape through the strings. The Juul devices are highly addictive. They have 5% nicotine in it. However, there's a wide variety of flavors which are now banned, but quite honestly, the kids can still get their hands on them. By off-brands that have 6% nicotine in them, that means that a Juul pod is the equivalent of smoking an entire pack of cigarettes. There are a lot of great websites out there that can show you pictures of these devices. One of the other things that I would say too is just kind of beware of some of the signs. And obviously some of these have crossover where they could mean nothing, but if you notice them consistently, or or several of them all at once, it might be a red flag, and that would be if your kid is needing to use the bathroom a lot, spending a lot of time in the bathroom. Like I said, there's not a lot of vapor, so they can just quick go in the bathroom, hit their Juul. That could be why. Bloody noses are another sign, can be a sign. And I would say too, just be aware of who your kids are hanging out with. I heard Piper one night talking to her nurse, and she just said to her, "Man, if God didn't let me die, he must have big plans for me." And she's like, "I feel like I have to make an example of myself, and I have to tell other people," because, in her own words, she's like, literally everybody I know has tried it or is vaping, whether consistently or not. And she's like, "I just really want you to share this with other people, so just kind of as a warning." And so I said, okay. Like I said, it's easier for me to have thick skin, and I'll keep speaking out, because I feel like the more educated parents can be and the more support we can have, for getting rid of products that have no place being available to our youth. And then also, to let our kids know, hey, you guys were smart and you have been played, These companies knew exactly what they were doing when they targeted you, and don't be fooled. It's not something cool.